Welcome to Timeless. I'm Julie Hartman. We've got Sean McConnell in the producer's dungeon. Hello, Sean. How you doing?
What it do, nephew?
And we are live.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live! Do it live!
That was real footage of me running into the producer's dungeon seconds before we went live. Hello again, everyone. So yes, this is the new format of Timeless. On Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, we are live on YouTube at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. And Dennis and Julie is now premiering a day early on Sundays at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, because we know that many of you like to have Dennis and Julie early on in your week, and we don't want to deprive you of that human right to see Dennis Prager and me talk about all of life's big issues every Sunday. So I hope that you will check that out. We've got a lot to discuss today. We're going to be talking about Robin DiAngelo. We're also going to be discussing this latest school shooting. How sad that we have to refer to school shootings as the latest. And we're also going to be talking about a DNC campaign to paint RFK Jr., who is running as an independent, as a MAGA hack, as a puppet of Donald Trump. And then finally, we'll be chatting about Griselda, which is a new Netflix show, and some of the advertising that's going on with regard to that. By the way, it is Tuesday, February 13th, 2024, aka the day before Valentine's Day. So happy early Valentine's Day to everyone. And you're welcome for giving you a reminder, especially to the men out there who may have forgotten that tomorrow's the big day when you got to have all your ducks in a row. 1-844-861-5537, 844-861-5537. That is our show call-in number. I don't know if we're going to get to it today because we have a lot to discuss. We may not get to it this first week, but one of the hallmarks of this live show, I hope, is going to be having call-ins and also interactions in the live chat. By the way, just quickly, in my ear, I'm hearing my mic go in and out. Are you guys good? Are you hearing that?
No, well, we're good.
I can deal with it if you can deal with it.
We can deal with it.
Just wanted to make sure that's not going on, because I know that yesterday there was a little bit of an echo at the beginning, and people in the chat very graciously alerted us to that issue.
Yep.
And so please do alert us to issues if you see them, especially pertaining to my makeup, because as we know, in an episode of Timeless last week, I had a big black glob on my eye of mascara, and somebody did not alert me to it. Huh.
Maybe I like big black globs. You ever think of that?
Okay, moving on. By the way, don't you like that Seansie cam? I think that's so cute. Yeah. We got a Seansie cam, or as people know you, Triple G, the gentle Gentile giant. All right, so let's start off with chatting about Robin DiAngelo. I had an epiphany this past weekend with regard to Robin DiAngelo and a lot of the race hustlers that we've been seeing come into our cultural discussions, especially in the aftermath of George Floyd's death in 2020. So I saw this clip on Twitter, and I had a big realization. Let's listen to it. It's Robin DiAngelo on a podcast, and she's talking about how the Sistine Chapel is a hallmark of white supremacy.
You may be surprised that the single image I use to capture the concept of white supremacy is Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, God creating man. You know, where God is in a cloud and there's all these angels and he's reaching out and he's touching, I don't know who that is, David or something.
It's Adam.
And God is white and David's white and the angels are white. Like that is the perfect convergence of white supremacy, patriarchy.
Okay, so as I said, that's Adam, who God is reaching out and touching. It's not David. Robin DiAngelo was talking earlier in that show about how she grew up Catholic, but she didn't know that important tidbit. So as I was watching this, I realized something. Robin DiAngelo, subconsciously or not, is white supremacist. And I don't I don't throw around that term loosely. One of the things that I think is so unfortunate, and I really lament, is that a lot of terms such as white supremacist, such as racist, such as sexist, such as oppression, even the word offended, they've had their meanings distorted. Their meanings have been hijacked. So this is not a term that I throw around superfluously. However, I say again, I think that Robin DiAngelo, subconsciously or not, is white supremacist because she reads in to this concept of whiteness even when it is not significant. Look at what she just said about the Sistine Chapel. The Sistine Chapel. When Michelangelo was painting the Sistine Chapel, do you really think he was painting that in order to propagate some kind of insidious white supremacist motives? It is obscene. Do you think that most people, when they walk into the Sistine Chapel, regardless of their race, look up and they think, yeah, everybody's white? That is not the thing that people are seeing when they're walking into the Sistine Chapel. It's not the thing that they're thinking of. And if some people do think that, it's because individuals like Robin DiAngelo have planted that into their minds. And so it's just so interesting to me. And again, it made me kind of realize that this is a white supremacist idea, to see whiteness and give outsized importance to the concept of whiteness, even when that concept, in the case of the Sistine Chapel, isn't at play, even when it isn't significant. Now, Robin DiAngelo may be a white supremacist in the way that she has disdain for white culture, but by focusing so much on this idea of whiteness, she is giving it a ton of attention and outsized importance. She's essentially saying that this idea of whiteness is supreme in importance and significance. What do you think, Sean? Do you agree or disagree?
I agree with you. I don't like her. And she's making buku bucks. She's making money doing this.
I know. It's crazy. She wrote the book White Fragility, which I actually know some people who handed that book out. They bought like 50 of those books during 2020 and they just handed it out to people because they wanted to be white saviors. It's absolutely absurd. So look, we know that people like Robin DiAngelo have a very low opinion of Black people. Because people like Robin DiAngelo, for all that they talk about, racism and white supremacy, they don't care about Blacks in the inner cities. They don't care that Black Lives Matter, the organization which they lionize, has embezzled millions of dollars, which did not go to bail funds or did not go to public schools or did not go to the cause of helping needy Black Americans, but instead went into their pockets so that they could buy multi-million-dollar mansions in Los Angeles. We know that these individuals don't have a high opinion of Black people. But what I saw in that video is that it's not just that. It's that they are reading so much into this idea of whiteness that there's a subconscious part of them or not that thinks that white culture is supreme. So I thought I'd just throw that one out there for you. Another thing too is we're seeing this not just with Robin DiAngelo, but we're seeing this concept of whiteness being given outsized importance, even to the point where it's made up, all across different, institutions and parts of culture in the United States. Take the Smithsonian Institute, which growing up, I used to revere. When I would see the name Smithsonian on a building, I would think, wow, this is a very, prestigious American institution. In 2020, they released a list of what they called white supremacist values. And included in that list were values or virtues, as they said, such as objectivity, punctuality, working hard before you have fun. That is weird. That's essentially saying that there's something special about white people if they practice those universal values. I'll give you another example. The Oregon Department of Education in 2021 released a memo, which they have since taken down from their website because there was such a disaster, PR disaster that emerged in the wake of it, in which they said that finding one right answer in math is white supremacy. That is also sort of indicating that they think that there must be something special about white people if they can do basic math. That they have to dumb down the standards, not just of math, but literally like reality in order to cater to Black people. That is racist. And indeed, I think that is white supremacist. Let me know what you think. Again, you can call in 1-844-861-5537, or you can leave a note in the chat, or You can email me, julie@julie-hartman.com. All these avenues of different ways to getting to me. And I love hearing from you and all of your thoughts. Okay, let's move on to the latest school shooting. Excuse me, actually, it's not a school shooting. I don't know why I said it's a school shooting. I just realized this now. It was a church shooting. Forgive me. The latest shooting, if you will, that made media attention. It is probably not the latest shooting because, as we know, there are all of these shootings going on every day, especially in the inner cities, and the media doesn't care. But when it is something that can be twisted for one's political motivation, then they do care. So this shooting happened on Sunday, February 11th, 2 days ago. And what happened was a 36-year-old woman with a male name, so this person identifies as trans, opened fire inside of Lakewood Church in Houston. This is a mega church, one of the most famous churches in the state of Texas. And this woman walked into the church, and I'm not going to say her name. That's Daily Wire's policy, which I hugely respect. They don't want to give these shooters the infamy that they crave, so they don't say their names. I actually don't even know the name of this shooter, but I know these other details. This woman walked in with an AR-15, which had a Palestine sticker on it, opened fire. She also walked in with her 7-year-old son, perhaps, I don't know, to distract from the fact that she was about to open fire. I have no idea why she would take her 7-year-old son in to do this. And a fight ensued, gunfire ensued between this shooter and between two off-duty law enforcement officers, because that's what happens in Texas. You have a lot of people who have right to carry, concealed carry, and when something like this happens, they step in. And thankfully, they were successful at stopping this potential huge disaster from happening. But sadly, this 7-year-old son, the son of the shooter, got caught in the crossfire, and he was shot in the head. And right now he is in the hospital, quote, fighting for his life. Another man, a 57-year-old man, was also shot inside of the church. He went to the hospital, but he has since been released, okay? So again, what's important to understand about this story is first that the shooter identifies as trans, and we're going to get to why that's important in a moment. Second, that on the gun was a Palestine sticker. Third, that it was found that this individual had anti-Semitic writing on the internet, and also that this individual had a documented history of both mental health disorders and a criminal past. Reading a statement here from the Houston police commander. He said that in 2016, this shooter was, quote, put under an emergency detention order and has, quote, a mental health history that is documented through us and through interviews with family members. As I said, she also has a criminal history dating back to 2005. She's been arrested several times for offenses including assault of a public servant, theft, and unlawful carrying of a weapon. Full stop right there. If someone has a documented history of struggling with mental health, and certainly, dear God, if someone has a documented criminal past, they should not be allowed to get their hands on a gun. That is not left. That is not right. That is common sense. And you know what? I blame both parties in our government for not taking sufficient steps to prevent this from happening. Now, I should say, when I say prevent this from happening, from really enacting strict statutes that would bar someone with that kind of criminal and mental health history from obtaining a gun. Now, to be fair, there are such statutes in many states. But the problem is we now live in a country where even though a law may be on the books, it may not be enforced. We see this with our southern border. We have loads of immigration statutes obligating, federal border protection agencies to, protect the border. But we see that these individuals are either blatantly disregarding the law, or in the case of the federal border agencies, they're cutting the razor wire on the border so that illegal immigrants can come into this country. So that is arguably a worse problem. It would be like an easier fix if we could just pass some laws. But the problem is that the rule of law in this country has been so disregarded that the laws aren't even followed, okay? So those are the details of this shooting. And one thing that I have noticed, and I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this, and Sean, I'm curious to hear yours as well, shockingly. It's that, I notice when these shootings happen, whether they're school shootings or shootings like this, I think both sides really do try to use whatever, the demographic or the beliefs of the shooter to spin it to help their side. And I think this exists more on the left, but I also think this exists on the right too. And I'm going to get to some examples. I think that, people on the left don't care about school shootings or about church shootings or any other shootings unless they can, see that it is a right-wing neo-Nazi crazy nutbag, and they can use it to say, hey, this is a referendum on conservatism. And frankly, I think a lot of people on the right engage in the same thing, and they don't always react unless it's an instance like this, when the shooter is seeming to kind of be associated in some way with left-wing culture or left-wing causes gone wrong. Nevertheless, there does seem to be a growing trend of shooters, and this is not PC to say, but welcome to Timeless, it's not PC, shooters who are identifying as either trans or non-binary. And this is something that we ought to look at. Just as when there seems to be a pattern of shooters who have expressed, neo-Nazi sympathies, people say that's a pattern we need to look at. We need to look at it when it's on the other side, okay? So we have this shooter at the church who identifies as trans. Obviously, about a year ago, in March of 2023, there was that famous example of the Nashville shooter, a 28-year-old female who identified as a male, who shot 3 children fatally and 3 faculty members at the Covenant School, a Christian school in Nashville, Texas. And then it was found that this individual had a manifesto that, of course, the media did not release. And the problem is, yes, both sides, I think, don't react to these shootings unless they can find some way for it to benefit their side. That is true. But the mainstream media is almost entirely left-wing. And so what happens is, when it is a shooter that is seen to be more aligned with the right, then they'll really amp it up on the media. But when it's the opposite, they won't. And so what we saw here is that this manifesto was not released, or it was very, very slowly released. And there was a lot of pushback because the media didn't want people to see it. And what happened was, we found that this individual, the Nashville shooter, wrote in her manifesto that she wanted to kill little crackers. Crackers is a derogatory term to use to describe white people. She wrote, bunch of little bleeps with your white privileges. Bleep you, bleep. Okay. This shooter didn't seem to have a known criminal record, but like this Houston shooter at the church, she did have a history of mental health problems. Quoting from the Nashville chief of police, quote, she was under doctor's care for an emotional disorder. Her parents felt that she should not own weapons, but somehow she got a weapon. Let's go on to 2 more just quick examples. In November of 2022, there was a 22-year-old non-binary identifying shooter who went and actually shot up a nightclub, a LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It's called Club Q. And this non-binary shooter killed 5, wounded 17. Also, this shooter had a criminal background. He was arrested in 2021 on 2 counts of felony, including kidnapping charges, and also had a history of mental health problems. And then I'll go to the final example. In 2019, there was an individual who killed 1 person and injured 8 people after opening fire at a charter school in Denver. And this individual was trans, born female, identifying as male. Interestingly, we see with 3 out of those 4 examples that the shooters were identifying as trans, but they were male to female. Now, that's interesting because for the vast majority of school shootings and shootings in general, it's men who are doing the shooting, not women. So I find that to be worthy of note, that the transgender individuals in the aforementioned examples were actually biological women. So And I just want to give two examples of neo-Nazi shooters, because I do think that, these are sort of overlooked when it doesn't, when people on the right don't want to talk about them. In May of 2023, there were 8 people killed at a Dallas mall by a shooter who had tattoos of a swastika and the SS. And in June of 2023, the FBI uncovered a plot from a teenager in Michigan who was planning a mass shooting at a synagogue. Actually, it was planned for March of this year, and they found neo-Nazi praising Hitler messages on his personal devices. So here's the thing. When a shooting happens, what we see is that when it's a neo-Nazi, what the left does is they try to say that this neo-Nazi is a referendum on conservative or right-wing culture in the United States. And they go, well, conservative and right-wing culture produced, a neo-Nazi like this. But then here, they will refuse to acknowledge that maybe there might be something similar going on. Now, I don't think that conservatism or right-wingism produces neo-Nazi shooters. I think that these people are very, very tiny, just like totally extreme crazies. But it is now a hallmark of left-wing policy to proselytize LGBTQ stuff to kids. It just is. I did an entire show on this. You can watch it in painstaking detail. Where I went through and I gave examples. I talked about how at a school district in Illinois, they are mandating that preschoolers be able to give definitions for what the word gay means, what the word lesbian means, what the word non-binary means. By kindergarten, they're supposed to understand the concept of transgenderism. In California, in Los Angeles, LAUSD, which has 450 schools under its jurisdiction, has Rainbow Club meetings for students as young as 4 years old to join an LGBTQ affinity group. In Maine, the Central Lincoln County school system is being sued by a parent who said that they secretly facilitated her child's sexual transition. In many blue states' Department of Education codes, they have these diktats in there where they have teachers not tell the parents if the child decides to go by another name or different pronouns. They also have these provisions in there to teach elements of, transgenderism, double queer theory to kids. And I think what's happening is that a lot of these individuals are becoming very confused. And I am by no means, because I know I'm going to get nailed, saying that, there's a proclivity of non-binary or transgender identifying people to become these shooters. Of course not. It's even ridiculous that I have to say that. However, what we are seeing is that a lot of people at a very young and impressionable age are having this thrust on them. And I think it is contributing to a lot of people being very internally confused, and perhaps it is leading to people such as the aforementioned examples of shooters to engage in violent activity. What do you think, Sean? My analysis is fair?
Yeah, I like to joke around. This is not a joking matter. I want to say prayers for the 7-year-old that is fighting for his life. That is the real tragedy here. I'm still unclear as to whether this is a woman who identified as a man or a man who identified as a woman.
The woman who identified as a man.
Okay. And either way, and it's a very weird situation. And one thing I do notice is there's not a lot of cry out for gun control this morning, which there normally would be.
Exactly.
But either way, if we're not going to pin the right with the neo-Nazi stuff, then we can't pin the left with the transgender shootings. Either way, I think Yeti Man in the chat has it right. The common denominator is mental health problems.
Yes.
Period.
Well, here's the thing, and this is obviously very difficult to discuss. You're saying we can't pin the right with the neo-Nazi, we can't pin the left with the transgender stuff. I agree with that to an extent, but here's the difference. There are very few examples, if any, that I can see where conservatives and right-wingers are teaching neo-Nazi stuff and trying to proselytize neo-Nazi ideas.
Yeah, no.
That is not true on the left, and that's the point that I'm making.
It's a great point. I'm not saying anyone's hands are clean. I'm just saying There are sick people on both sides.
Totally.
Anyone who wants to go shoot other people because they're miserable are sick.
Yes.
They're just sick people. And we have sick people on both sides. And instead of blaming one side or the other for the sake of politics, let's fix the mental health problems in this country. And I know it's easier said than done, and I can get on my high horse. But look, okay, bad things are going to happen. We know that. And it just seems like it's happening more frequently, that innocent blood is being shed because crazy people have access to guns. And I don't want to restrict a good person from having a gun. We have these laws in place. But this individual clearly had problems with the law, had a previous record. There were cries for help out there that this person had problems, and we did nothing about it. So I guess if everybody just sits around and ignores the symptoms, then these things are going to continue to happen.
Absolutely. Yep. The underlying cause is mental health and these criminal records. And that, I'm sorry, I do blame the left for the criminal record stuff, because we see over and over and over that those on the left are contributing to and bringing about a culture which legitimizes crime and legitimizes lawlessness and gives a pass to lawlessness. I mean, we see this going on. I read about these examples of stabbings that happen in New York City, or people, pushing someone onto the subway tracks. And you look, and these individuals have like 11 priors. They have a well-documented criminal record, but because we now live in this world where it's not fair to throw someone in prison because it's, racist and terrible and bigoted and white supremacist, we let these people out. So look, I hope I've been fair in this analysis. As I said, I do think when these shootings happen, sides react predictably based on how they can see it turn to their benefit. But look, we have to acknowledge that there does seem to be an uptick in shooters who are identifying as trans or non-binary. And I think that it is not unfair to ask some questions about the moral confusion, not moral confusion, the gender confusion, that is inculcated into kids at a very young age. And that is becoming more in vogue and far, far more common in our schools. Okay, putting that aside, let's move on to talking about RFK Jr. I really like RFK Jr. I got to say, I respect him. I don't agree with him on everything, but I really, really respect him. The DNC apparently may respect him. I don't know about that, but is certainly, by all indicators, feeling threatened by his candidacy. So RFK Jr. is the son of former Attorney General and former presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy. He is the nephew of former President John F. Kennedy. He is an environmental lawyer. He was the founder of Children's Health Defense as a background, and he launched his candidacy for president first from as a Democrat from the side of the Democratic Party, and now very recently he said, "No more with the Democratic Party. I'm running as an independent." So this weekend, Tim Pool, the YouTube sensation commentator, was posted a tweet, which I'm going to pull up right now, where he was driving in Michigan. And he put up some photos of a billboard that apparently the Democratic National Committee funded and put together. And it is a billboard linking RFK Jr. to Donald Trump. It says, quote, this is the tweet, Democratic National Committee funded billboard outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan attacks RFK Jr. as powered by MAGA/Trump. RFK Jr. is hosting a rally here later today. Okay. And then you see on the sign, it has a picture or the billboard of RFK Jr. and Trump. It says powered by MAGA and Trump, same biggest donor, Timothy Mellon. Okay. That is a pretty big step, I think, to say that RFK Jr. is somehow MAGA. Now, it may be true. I take them at their word that they have the same biggest donor. And I'm sure that there are many donors who are MAGA who are supporting RFK Jr. because they see it to their benefit. They think that having RFK Jr. on the ticket will take some votes away from Biden so that more votes comparatively go to Trump. But to say that RFK Jr. like himself is MAGA, I think that is totally unfair. So it raises the question, why is the Democratic Party so threatened by RFK Jr. And RFK Jr. has talked about this well before these billboards went up. And by the way, it's significant that they're in Michigan because Michigan is one of those battleground states where Trump and Biden are really trying to get votes. So RFK Jr. has said many times that the Democratic National Committee has it out for him and they are trying to suppress his candidacy. And he has been very critical of the Democratic Party. When he announced his candidacy over a year ago, he said, quote, "I'm running for president of the United States because the Democratic Party lost its way." He said, "I think people are tired of being lied to by the government and by the media." So that's one reason why the DNC would probably be a bit threatened by RFK Jr. But also it goes back to what I was just alluding to a few seconds ago, and that is that RFK seems to be the candidate who will take a lot of votes away primarily from Biden to give more votes to Trump. Now, also, undoubtedly, and it's been proven in polls, he is likely to take some votes away from Trump. He, I think, is a good candidate for people who are kind of in the center, who are disillusioned by both parties. But according to several polls, Beacon Shaw, Fox News, Echelon Heights, Ipsos, they show Ipsos. It sounded weird when I said Ipsos.
It sounds delicious.
Maybe I'm just hungry. I know.
I'd like to pour some Ipsos on my burger.
I want some Ipsos right now.
Ipsos.
Ipsos. But Ipsos is one of those polls which say that it is more likely that RFK Jr. will take votes away from Biden and not from Trump. Also, according to a Marist NPR PBS NewsHour poll. God, by the way, God, these polls, they've got so many. It's always like the slashes, Marist, NPR, PBS NewsHour. I guess that each of those entities take...
Much like a responsible father, you should keep your kids off the polls.
Nice one.
Thanks.
Actually, I although it's kind of not fun to read, I think it's good. It's good that, each of these entities are pulling together their polls. Now, every time I say it, I think of your joke. 30%, according to that aforementioned poll, 30% of Democrats and left-leaning independents are very satisfied if Biden is the nominee, compared to 43% of Republicans/Republican leaning independents are satisfied if Trump is the nominee. So fewer people in the Democratic Party are satisfied with Biden than Republicans are with Trump, which would be more of an indication that an independent on the ballot, RFK Jr., would probably take more votes from the Biden left-wing independent camp than from the Trump right-wing independent camp. And, we have seen time and time again in American history that third-party candidates can do a lot to sway the outcome of an election. By the way, yesterday I was playing some clips of when LBJ announced that he would not seek re-election. I played another clip of when Richard Nixon resigned as president of the United States, when I was talking about what Joe Biden ought to and perhaps will do. And now I'm going to give some examples of these independents. It's just maybe presidential history week here on the Timeless with Julie Hartman Live first week. But Ralph Nader is one such example. In 2000, in the match-off between Al Gore and George W. Bush, Nader, who was part of the Green Party, got just under 5% of the vote, nearly 3 million votes, but he did win 97,000 votes in the state of Florida, which was the decisive state where Al Gore lost by 537 votes. Ross Perot ran as an independent in 1992 in the matchup between George H.W. Bush, who we call Bushushuru, for the Japanese word that was named after the incident where he vomited on stage.
Can I finish?
What'd you say?
Can I finish?
What's that?
That's a Ross Perot impression.
Really?
Can I
don't
finish?
know that.
Yeah, he was in the debate going, can I finish?
Well,
Can I
here's my
finish?
excuse.
Can I finish?
I was born in 1999.
I'm going to
hide behind that as not understanding the
I remember
reference.
in AP Civics in high school, my teacher took a mock vote, and it was George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Ross Perot. Is that correct? That was the election?
Yep.
And everyone was 50-50, and I was the only one in the class that voted for Ross Perot.
Why? Why'd you vote for him?
And he said, that's exactly what my teacher asked me. Why'd you vote for him? And I said, because I can.
And that was a burgeoning Sean McConnell. I remember in our third grade class, we had a teacher who asked because that was when Barack Obama and John McCain were running. I remember she got up and she said, I want everyone to take a vote of who you would vote for. And then literally 5 seconds later, I'll never forget this, she said, nope, we're actually not going to do that. And we said, why? And she said, because it's not who you're going to vote for, it's who your parents are voting for. And I thought, that's so true. You know, when you're a little third grader, you don't realize that you're just following along with who your parents would vote for. I gotta ask my parents. I think they voted for Obama. Shaking my head. It was a different time. Anyway, they're watching. Maybe they voted for McCain. I have no idea. But Ross Perot is an independent during the Clinton and Bush match off in 1992. He won nearly 20 million votes. That's 19% overall. And many people think that's why Clinton won against George H.W. Bush, who was a one-term president. So basically, independents can have a lot of sway in how elections go. And this is why, in addition to those billboards, the Democratic National Committee is trying to continue their efforts to not have independent candidates on the ballot, or at least not have them do particularly well. There was a big Wall Street Journal spread recently about a super PAC, which the Wall Street Journal says looks like it is a Democratic National Committee operative. It's called Citizens to Save Our Republic, and they are trying to raise money to knock down No Labels. No Labels is a political group which supports candidates which have no labels, who are independents. So again, consult with the Wall Street Journal if you want to read more about the super PAC's attempt to get no labels off of the ballot. But, you know, just in general, I think that RFK Jr. represents a true liberal, and we now have lost true liberals. I know some. I happen to be friends with some, but as a country, we really don't have many liberals anymore.
I disagree.
Really?
I think we do have true liberals. They're just quiet.
That's fair.
They're quiet because they get hijacked by the other side. That's what happens. They're the silent majority. I told you this before. Thank God good people get up every day and go to work. Because if we lose that, we lose this beautiful experiment we like to call America. But I believe there are good liberals out there. They just stay quiet because what are they going to get? They're going to get attacked.
You know what? I think you're absolutely right. I think there are more classical liberals out there than we think. What I meant to say was that we don't have many in our political discourse right now. We have a lot of lefties.
You just got amplified fringe everywhere. So
I don't know.
If it bleeds, it leads. You're not going to hear good, but there are. You know what? Look at Bill Maher. He's pretty.
Oh God,
he's kind of a classic liberal. No,
he loves Gavin Newsom.
That's okay. I can live with that. But he knows that we should protect Israel.
I love how you go. He knows we should protect Israel, and then you couldn't come up with more.
No,
examples.
I'm just saying. He's not perfect, but I'm saying
you.
in a civil discussion, I can live with somebody like that.
I understand.
I don't have just because I don't like Gavin Newsom and think he might be bad for the country doesn't mean somebody with a decent brain can't be on the other side and like him. I think they're wrong, but I don't mind them sharing the same oxygen.
I hear you. I think Gavin Newsom is so terrible, and I think one of the most prime example of a leftist and not a liberal. And I just cannot understand Bill Maher's support of him, because I agree with you in other ways. He seems to be a liberal. You know, he's pro-free speech. He's pro-Israel. He thinks the border crisis is crazy.
Yeah, no, I know you and I share the same thing, which is what makes, I think, this show great, is that you and I both, above all, seek the truth. And what you were talking about earlier about the politicization of everything, I think, at least here, let's be upfront and honest about seeking the truth and not politicizing everything. So I'm just saying I don't want to villainize a decent liberal on the other side just because we think they're wrong.
I don't intend to at all. I will say, however, that I think it's crazy that if he's a liberal, that he likes Gavin Newsom as much as he does. But Bill Maher has utility. I think thank God in many ways for Bill Maher, because a lot of liberals who maybe don't feel as comfortable saying, hey, I'm a liberal, looks at someone like Bill Maher and they can find an ally in him. So I think you're right that there are more people in this country who are classical liberals, but there are not people in politics, very few anymore, who are classical liberals. And I think RFK Jr. is one of the new ones, is one of the people who's trying to bring that back. Just quickly, you were saying that there are crazies on both sides. totally agree with you.
Yeah, just like there's also, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but I do think there are a lot more moderate Republicans than there are moderate. I mean, look
and they're also
diversity.
quiet. They
Right.
You know, they don't have a MAGA flag waving from the back of their 4x4. You know, I mean, but they will go into the booth and they will vote for Trump because they would never vote for Biden. But they're just quiet. Everyone's been, put in their little box and they keep quiet so that no one attacks them.
I'm not even talking about support of Trump. I just think there's way more ideological diversity on the right than there is on the left. There are a lot more kind of middle in the road, center right candidates than there are. I mean, Joe Manchin is like the sort of center left candidate in the Democratic Party. Most other Democrats are just, I mean, very pro opening the border, pro this crazy LGBTQ proselytizing stuff in schools. I mean,
the left is very effective with their language and their rhetoric and the way they get. It's like conservative is a bad word.
Oh, yes.
All you have to do is label someone a conservative, and then you no longer have to listen to anything they say. But I think most people, the silent majority of people in the middle that aren't the squawking fringe or the parrots, they are the people that are this country. And they are quiet because they don't want to deal with it.
Yep. But now it's their obligation to deal with it. I understand not wanting to deal with it.
That's what I'm saying. That's why this show is good, because we're saying, hey, here, we put our flag down in this silent majority of decent people, whether you're to the left or to the right of the center. Here we are, and enough of this craziness out here.
Right. So I think back to RFK. I think he's one of those few now classical liberals, and these are just some of his positions. And he's hugely threatening to the Democratic Party because this is no longer the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, to the point of our discussion, has mostly become leftist and not liberal. So here's what RFK says. He says, we're addicted to war. Quote, one of the big problems we have in our federal government is addiction to war. We've spent $8 trillion on wars since 9/11. If we kept that money at home, we would have had childcare for every American. We'd have free college for every American. We'd be able to pay for our social security system. Pretty classical liberal take, right? Agreed. People in the middle on both sides really endorse that position. He also is not pro pushing vaccines on people. Now, obviously, there's all this stuff on the internet about views he has about vaccines. I'm not going to get into that, but he essentially said that he thought that it was unfair to have these vaccine mandates during COVID if people were uncomfortable taking them. I think that's a classical liberal position, but that is not the position, or was not the position, of the Democratic Party, furthering my point that the modern Democratic Party is much more leftist than it is liberal. Some other points of RFK Jr., which are pretty just commonsensical. He thinks that the border has been, quote, a disaster and humanitarian catastrophe. He does not like the elitism of various international entities, such as the World Economic Forum, who set rules for thee, but not for themselves. He's talked about big tech censorship. In fact, he's filed legal action against the Biden administration and Google for their collusion in suppressing anti-COVID vaccine stories and anti-Biden stories on the internet. So yeah, I think we understand why they are seeing him as such a big threat. But you know what's sad? In addition to the Democratic Party really trying to sideline RFK Jr., he's also getting it from his own family. And that I really don't like. Look, obviously his family has every right to disagree with him. It's a free country. I love respectful disagreement. But in my opinion, I think the way that they're doing it is unfair to RFK and is particularly mean. Let me cite two examples. So the first is...
Before you do the example, you triggered something to me. I've heard Jordan Peterson...
You're triggered.
Jordan Peterson warned about this. Elon Musk has talked about it. Two guys who are apolitical, basically, but they have been labeled conservatives and therefore are. And so talking about RFK, who is not a conservative, is now being labeled a conservative because everything in the political spectrum has shifted to the left.
Yes.
And anything to the right of the left is bad.
Totally.
That is not healthy, man.
I mean, I'm very proud to say that I'm a conservative because I want to conserve the principles of the American founding. I love the United States of America. I also am conservative because I would vote and will vote for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. So I get that, I am conservative and I'm proud to say that I am. However, there are so many views that I have and I go, am I really conservative? Like, are these conservative? I'm pro-police. I'm pro-strong border. I'm pro-punishing and prosecuting crime. I think that children should not be given puberty blockers and gender-altering surgeries until they're 18. When they're 18, they can do whatever the heck they want. It's a free country. If you want to be trans, be trans. You're not going to get any kind of blowback from me. If you're 18, I mean, these are positions that I'm like, okay, does this really make me on the right, or does this just make me a person of common sense? Now it does make me on the right.
It makes you a decent human being.
Right.
And we can't let the left, the far left, hijack the center.
But the far left has. The far left has hijacked every institution.
Scrape and claw and gain that ground back.
And so this is what I really resent. You have said it perfectly. This is what I really resent about the Kennedy family's treatment of RFK Jr. Again, they have every right to disagree with him, but they should do so, in my view, more respectfully and understand that his beliefs are what the parents, what JFK and RFK believed when they were the darlings of the Kennedy family and of the Democratic Party. I don't get how angry modern day Kennedys are at RFK Jr. Again, let's look at some examples. So this weekend during the Super Bowl, where I know the name of the guy, Travis Kelce. I got that wrong yesterday.
Nice
I called him Kels.
Well done.
Practiced that 8 times in front of the mirror this morning. Travis Kelce, there was a Super Bowl ad for RFK. Let's play it quickly because I think it's really fun and uplifting. Well, what problem would you have with this?
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
American Value 2024 is responsible for the contents of this advertisement.
Lovely ad. It's so optimistic. It's using footage from a JFK ad when JFK was running in 1960, but they just put in pictures of RFK Jr. And again, I think what RFK Jr. is trying to do in that ad is show what I just said. I am carrying on the values that my father and my uncle, when they were Democrats, when the Democratic Party wasn't so crazy, what they believed in. Free speech, strong border, strong police, all the things that I just mentioned that are now considered right-wing, but were considered to be values that both sides had until recently. And so, of course, the Kennedy family, freaks out and says that this was so horrible. What is so damn horrible about that ad? It's a lovely ad. I could go on and on. Let's look at a tweet from RFK Jr.'s first cousin, Bobby Shriver. He said that, that is Robert F. Kennedy's response. But essentially what Bobby Shriver said was that he was very upset that RFK Jr. used the ad because it showed footage, he says, of RFK and of, I believe, Maria Shriver. And Bobby Shriver said, my parents would never have agreed with your stances, especially with regard to health care. Whatever. I think kind of rude. And then Bobby Kennedy very graciously respond, I'm so sorry if that advertisement caused you pain. It was created and aired by the American Values Super PAC without any involvement or approvals from my campaign. By the way, just want to pause. That's not so great to admit. I mean, RFK Jr. should be aware of any ads that are being put out for him on behalf of him. And especially if they're being, using footage from his family. So you know what? Bobby Shriver may have a point. That wasn't the point he was raising, but that's no bueno if RFK Jr. wasn't aware of that ad. So then he continues, federal rules prohibit super PACs from, okay, well, that's why you continue to read the tweet. You'll learn. Federal rules prohibit super PACs from consulting with me or my staff. I send you and your family my sincerest apologies. God bless you. What a class act. I met RFK Jr. a few months ago, and I'm not claiming that after my one meeting with him, I got to know him well, but I think I did get a pretty good sense of who he is. And he struck me as a very humble, kind, gracious, sincere individual. And in fact, I asked him a question about another family member who has been very vocal, very mean, far more mean than Bobby Shriver in his disapproval of RFK Jr., and that is Jack Schlossberg. Jack Schlossberg is the only son of Caroline Kennedy, the only grandson of JFK and Jackie O. And Jack Schlossberg put out this video, which was so rude, about RFK Jr. Let's play it, and then I'll tell you what RFK Jr. said to me when I asked him about this clip.
Hi, I'm Jack Schlossberg, and I have something to say. President John F. Kennedy is my grandfather, and his legacy is important. It's about a lot more than Camelot and conspiracy theories. It's about public service and courage. It's about civil rights, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and landing a man on the moon. Joe Biden shares my grandfather's vision for America, that we do things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And he is in the middle of becoming the greatest progressive president we've ever had. Under Biden, we've added 13 million jobs. Unemployment is at its lowest in 60 years. Biden passed the largest investment in infrastructure since the New Deal, and the largest investment in green energy ever.
He's so glib.
He's appointed more federal judges than any president since my grandfather. He ended our longest war. He ended the COVID pandemic. And he ended Donald Trump.
Oh, God.
These are the issues that matter. And if my cousin, Bobby Kennedy Jr., cared about any of them, he would support Joe Biden too. Instead, he's trading in on Camelot, celebrity, conspiracy theories, and conflict for personal gain and fame. I've listened to him. I know him. I have no idea why anyone thinks he should be president. What I do know is his candidacy is an embarrassment. Let's not be distracted, again, by somebody's vanity project. I am excited to vote for Joe Biden in my state's primary and again in the general election. And I hope you will too.
Ugh.
I just
Jeez.
want to tell you, I'm not an angry person. I never have been. I very rarely get angry. If I could curse right now, I would. I'm so angry watching that video. He's so glib. He's so supercilious. He's so self-righteous. How dare he say that about RFK Jr., that he's trading in on Camelot and celebrity to further himself? Look, it's a free country. He has every right to post a video, free speech. You know, I'm pro. You can say whatever the heck you want, but I also have a right to disapprove of it. Come on. RFK Jr. is running a principled campaign. You may disagree with some of what he says. You may think some of it is outlandish, but that's really, in my view, very unkind for a family member to do. So I asked RFK Jr. this because I was dying of, of curiosity. And I said to him privately, I said, how did you feel about that video? I'm so sorry that he posted that. And RFK Jr. said to me, totally privately, there were no cameras on, there were no recording. He could have said whatever he wanted. And he said to me, you know what? God bless him. He has a right to think whatever he wants to think. I wish him well. I'm sad that so many in my family, don't see what I'm trying to do, the good I'm trying to do for his country. But again, he said, God bless him. What a class act. Am I right? What a class act.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is what we need to restore in this country. Class actism. Class activism. We should put on a
Keep it
t-shirt.
classy, San Diego.
Yes. Speaking of keeping it classy, let's end this show by talking about Griselda, which is this new Netflix show, which has some kind of weird advertising, which is glorifying cocaine. Certainly not keeping it classy. But before we do that, let's keep it classy with MyPillow. I use a lot of MyPillow products. I walk into work wearing my slippers. They're extremely comfortable. I sleep on a MyPillow. I sleep on the Giza Dream bed sheets. And you can get these MyPillow products at a discount. In fact, you can get all MyPillow products at a discount if you use the promo code Hartman or call 1-800-566-6745. Obviously, MyPillow is known for the pillow, but they didn't stop at the pillow. They created the Giza Dream bed sheets, which, as I said, I use. They look great. They feel great. They help facilitate an even better night's sleep. They're made with the world's best cotton called Giza, which is ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. And with the promo code Hartman, you can get these sheets 50% off at $29.98. They come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. Just go to MyPillow.com and click on the radio podcast square or call 1-800-566-6745 and use the promo code Hartman. There you will find not only this great offer, but also deep discounts on all, as I said, all MyPillow products, including the MyPillow 2.0 mattress topper, MyPillow kitchen towel sets, now even flannel sheets, and so much more. Just quickly, I want to take a look here at the live chat. It's really fun. I can just turn and look. This is an inter-family feud. Totally agree with that. Sounds like a family feud, like the one with Trump and his sister. Yes, that's true. Hey, you know what? Dennis Prager says that one of the things he loves about the Torah is that it shows dysfunctional families. Maybe that's one thing we can like about politics. It shows dysfunctional families, you know, people, siblings or family members who disapprove. Was JFK for cancel culture? I don't think there's a lot of evidence that he was for cancel culture. I don't think cancel culture existed to the same extent that it does now back when JFK was president. We need more courageous liberals, less cowardly ones. Totally agree. And I love this one. Well, that's good to know he's not a jerk. Yes.
Hey, I want to applaud the chat room.
I know.
It has not devolved into some chat rooms I've seen that are atrocious. Keep it classy, chat room.
Keep it classy.
I
Class
like it.
activism.
Kudos to you.
Tessa Jane is saying, yeah, Tessa Jane, I agree. I should call everybody out by name, by the way. I should give them credit. Esteban said the courageous liberals one. Absolutely. Yeah, let's keep it classy in the chat. I gotta say, when I turned, I was like, oh God, I really hope that there's nothing too bad. Yeah, I'm continuing to read. Oh, yeah. The
Very
failed,
polite.
Sir TDS, failed Afghan withdrawals, nothing to brag about. Worst loss for America since, I can't read the rest.
Oh,
but
and he
since something.
ended Trump.
He ended Trump, right. And he ended COVID,
Yeah,
right.
Trump's ended. Oh, yeah, he ended COVID.
He
yeah,
ended COVID. That was the best one. Yeah, he just waved a magic wand of Clorox and Lysol, and poof, COVID all of a sudden disappeared. All right, let's talk about Griselda. How many people, I want to know in the chat, have seen Griselda? And by the way, just quickly, I understand that the live stream has been going in and out. I saw that in the chat. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, and
we're going to fix
everyone
it.
should know we're going to post the full episode
Yep.
afterwards. So if you missed anything, you'll get the full
Yes.
episode. But we cannot stop. The show must go on.
The show must go
Yeah.
on, even if it's not going on. The
Yeah.
show must go on. But we'll post the full thing after. And thank you for bringing it to our attention. So Griselda. Griselda's a new Netflix show starring Sofia Vergara. By the way, LA story for an LA girl who grew up here. I saw Sofia Vergara in person when I was 8 years old. And that, my friends, this is a formative moment in the life of Julie Hartman. That's when I learned what a boob job was. Because I
Ouch.
saw her. And I
Ouch.
asked either my sister or my mom. We were at a restaurant in Malibu and she was outside and there were all these paparazzi. And my 8-year-old self literally could not believe that a woman had such large breasts. Like, it was shocking to me. And that's when I learned for the first time, thanks to Sofia Vergara, that you can have them surgically altered to make them bigger. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Sofia Vergara is a Colombian actress, so she's starring in this show Griselda about Griselda Blanco. Excuse me. What did I say? Ipsos?
Blanco.
Ipsos, I said. Another one.
Blanco.
Griselda Blanco, who is known as the godmother of Miami's drug empire. She's from Colombia, moved to Miami, and was this running around town being this godmother of the empire. She lived from 1943. She was assassinated in Colombia in 2012. And she is the woman who Pablo Escobar, who was a Colombian drug lord, said was the only woman he ever feared in his life. And that quote is, I watched the first episode of Griselda. That quote is at the beginning of the first episode. Quote, "The only man I was ever afraid of was a woman named Griselda Blanco." By the way, after that first episode of the Netflix show, I had a dream that night that she was chasing me and my family around in LAX airport. So I guess you could say that the Netflix show has been somewhat successful at scaring you. Maybe only just me. Okay, so here's the main thing I want to discuss. This actually came from one of our dear, dear producers, Alejo. You just see Sean McConnell here on the Seansie cam, but actually in the dungeon, along with Sean, there are 4 other male producers.
It's not a dungeon.
Rick, Alejo, Tony, and Zach.
Yes.
4 others, and hopefully they can all make on-camera appearances.
They're just not as pretty as I am.
Right, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. They're a little shy. They're a little camera shy. It's okay. We have one person here who's not camera shy, and I'll take the reins. But Alejo made the suggestion that we talk about this because he is from Colombia, and he has some opinions about what the show propagates. So, Sean, we asked Alejo to write down some of his thoughts, and Sean's going to relay them.
Yeah, first of all, Sofia Vergara, very, very beautiful, funny woman. I enjoyed Griselda. I thought it was well made.
Oh, you watched it?
I watched the whole thing, and it was bingeable. And I was not aware those weren't real. I'm still kind of trying to figure that out.
What do you mean those weren't real?
You know, those.
Okay. Anyway, Alejo.
So our resident Colombian, I was talking about how great Griselda was, and he's from Colombia, and I was like, have you seen it? And he said, I don't like this. Forgive my accent. I don't do a good Colombian accent, but he said, I hate stuff like this. And I said, why? I said, would you write down why you don't like that? And he said, it perpetuates stigmas against Colombia and the people of Colombia, that Colombia equals cocaine. It romanticizes nefarious criminals that have only brought death and misery to the Colombian people. It prevents Colombian culture from moving on from their violent past and overshadows the good and beautiful things that come from Colombia. And sadly, there are Colombians that feed this stigma. I had not thought about it like that, but when he said that, I had to pause and I had to think, and I realized, yeah, we have become enamored with the anti-hero in this country. It might be the most popular genre that we have.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. So you asked me to write down a bunch of stuff. I don't know if you want me to do that now or you want me to hold on, or did you have plans for this anti-hero thing?
Oh, yeah. No, I have some thoughts.
Do you want to show the advertisement for Griselda first?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
So there was an advertisement for Griselda that went on the streets of Paris on January 30th, 2 weeks ago. And it's a big bus that was driving down the street right in front of the Louvre Museum, actually. And it had this big, tunnel thing that looked like a wrapped up dollar bill. And it was sniffing white powder on the street that looked like cocaine. Here's the video. And it has Griselda on the truck. Look at that. Of course you're laughing at Of course you're laughing.
I've been to the Rose Parade. I've never seen a float like that.
Yep. Nope.
Wow.
Exactly. Well, here's the problem. Here's something that I've been thinking about, because I've had this thought before when I watch certain TV shows. It sounds like a woke thing to consider because we've dissected so many, things and their deep meaning, but it really is a valid question of what kind of values a book or a movie or a TV show promotes. And I believe in the free market. I think that people should be allowed to produce whatever they want, and then we, the consumers, either approve or disapprove of that with how we spend our money and what we put our eyeballs on. However, I do think the point you've raised, Sean, is true, that we're seeing more and more of these shows which are glorifying what you called anti-heroism. I looked up that term because we were talking about this yesterday when you suggested that I show this clip of the advertisement. And I looked up, well, what is an anti-hero? And according to Wikipedia, very trustworthy source, by the way, Wikipedia, on some things it actually really is. An anti-hero is someone who has a lack of conventional hero qualities like courage and morality. And so we see a lot of these shows that's kind of focusing on these bad figures, and in turn, they're not just being seen as bad, but they're being seen as badass and sort of people to emulate.
Yeah, I think it was important to define it, that they rebel against the established system, that any action is justified, and that we're rooting for the criminal.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can talk about the origins of this. I have some theories. I understand that Sean has some theories. By the way, Sean and I do what Dennis and I do before Dennis and Julie. We don't talk about anything we're going to say on the air.
True,
so
we didn't talk about it.
So it's spontaneous.
You were downright rude about that, just to be honest.
Well, I walked into the
Stop talking!
I walked into the studio and I yelled the Bill O'Reilly thing. No, I actually, before I see Sean, now that we started doing live, I say to him, "Don't talk to me." We're not talking.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be so spontaneous on the air. I've said I would love to do that with some people in my life,
you like
not
it a little
just
too
you.
much.
How fun would it be with those certain individuals? Imagine if RFK Jr. could say that. Jack Schlossberg walks into the room. Don't talk to me.
Stop talking.
Stop talking. Yes. Okay, so let's play just quickly. I have another video. Sofia Vergara was on Jimmy Fallon promoting Griselda. And she started talking about how the director of the film taught her how to do cocaine. And then the audience laughs, and then she kind of keeps talking, and then she realizes that she kind of messed up, and then tries to clarify that it's fake cocaine. Let's watch it, because I think it's very indicative of the culture that we're in.
It's mostly Latin American actors are the best Latin American actors right now. The director is an amazing director that I wanted to work with, Andy Weiss, and he was, you know, my anchor during the filming because I had never done anything but Gloria Pritchett. I don't know anything, and he taught me how to smoke. He taught me how to do cocaine. He taught me.
All right, hold on. He's done a lot. He's done a lot of great things for you.
He would go to my house before, when I was getting ready to play this character, and we would sit, and he taught me all these things. And, you know, it was amazing because I was 51 years old, and I didn't even know how to, how to light a cigarette.
No, I don't know.
I had never done cocaine, so it's like, it was amazing. It was like a great experience.
So look, she's realizing that it's coming off poorly.
The show was a great experience.
No, you're confusing me now with the questions.
The show was a great experience.
The experience.
The drugs, we didn't. There was no real. There's no real cocaine.
No, there's no real cocaine. It's fake cocaine.
Okay, so look, maybe she really was, because there's a language barrier, obviously. Maybe she was trying to say that the director taught her how to do fake cocaine. I don't think that the first 45 seconds of that video indicates that, because she was talking about it seeming like she really did it, and then she kind of backtracked. But look, we don't know, right? But I think the point is that I have seen this in my daily life. I've seen this with people in college or just kind of people my age where, individuals will talk about these things without realizing that they're bad and without realizing that they're illegal, and without realizing that drug cartels are bringing this across, and there are people who get exploited. I mean, haven't you seen those documentaries of people who have to swallow these cocaine tablets and then, have them come out naturally so that some, rich college student can snort coke in a back room at a party? Like, we just have kind of lost the sense of how bad this is and how it's not something to glorify. And if you're going to do it, don't brag and laugh about doing it. So I think that clip kind of shows that we have tended to do that. This whole idea of the anti-hero is so kind of common that, in fact, T. Swiftie or Mrs. Travis Kelce, one of her most famous songs is about this whole concept. It's called Anti-Hero. Let's listen to just 15 seconds of it.
Why'd we stop?
I know. It's
That's
a good
my
song.
Jam.
It is really good. Sometimes I think about this with these songs where if I really like it but they're saying bad things, should I feel guilty for liking it? But I go off of feelings of songs, not so much the lyrics. So I think that song is a good feeling. But I did analyze the lyrics because part of me, when I heard that, I thought, wow, she's like us. She's like Seansie and Julie. She's criticizing the anti-hero culture. She's saying it must be exhausting rooting for the anti-hero. And the whole chorus of the song is, what was it? Hello, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. I love that. I mean, that's like conservatism. We should play that for Dennis and get his reaction. This is what Taylor Swift is saying. I mean, that's, as I said, the essence of conservatism. I am the problem. Society is not the problem. So in a way, it seems like the song is rooting against this anti-hero culture. But apparently, based on my readings of these deep blogs about Taylor Swift, the song is talking about all of the things that she hates about herself. Taylor Swift said this. This song is really a guided tour of all the things I tend to hate about myself. And so the problem I think I have with the song is that there's no kind of coming around. if that makes sense. Like, I can improve myself. I guess the line, I'm the problem, it's me, is a good acknowledgement, a good first step. But the whole song is her just ranting about all the things that she doesn't like about herself. And I get it. You don't always need or want like an end of the rainbow happy ending in songs or, you know, movies and TV shows. But the whole messaging is so pessimistic.
All right. Must Tay-Tay be involved in everything? Can we just talk about anti-heroes without being
This is the
bombarded by
point.
Tay-Tay?
But I think the song, in the attempt to recognize anti-hero culture, also glorifies anti-hero culture, because the whole song she's just singing about all the things she doesn't like about herself.
Point taken. But we're gonna run way over if we don't start talking about the anti-hero.
All right.
All
so
due
why don't you
respect
go?
to the Tay-Tay.
Why don't you go?
Well, where did this originate? Where did this start?
I have theories.
You have theories? I
Yeah.
have
What
theories.
are yours?
The 60s.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
I think that's when it became cool to be anti-culture, to be anti-establishment, to rebel against the norm, drugs, free love, revolution, F the system.
Yeah.
Now, what do we have that other clip, Alejo, of the movie with Marlon Brando from 1953? The Wild One? Didn't we pull that clip? I thought we had it.
It's okay. I'll take your word for it. Okay. So what?
Anyways, he's part of the motorcycle rebel club, and there's a scene where he's dancing, and maybe we can put it in post. But the girl turns to him and goes, "Johnny, what are you rebelling against?" And Marlon Brando looks at the camera and goes, "What do you got?" Like, I'll rebel against anything. So it's just cool to just rebel for the sake of rebelling. So I think, you know, we saw that. We see it in comic books. We see it in video games with Grand Theft Auto, where you're glorified for stealing cars and beating people up. Gangster rap, punk rock, heavy metal, grunge, and Hollywood has been producing what seems to be an amazing amount of content focused around the anti-hero shows, movies, ever since the 60s. And I have a list just off the top of my head. Would you like me to go through it? The Wild One, which was 1953 with Marlon Brando. I think that's where you can go back to the first one. You've got New Jack City, Dog Day Afternoon, all the Godfather movies, Scarface, Carlito's Way, The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Casino, Goodfellas, Snowfall, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Clockwork Orange, There Will Be Blood, Taxi Driver, Narcos, Fargo, Ray Donovan, Shameless, Blow, Curb Your Enthusiasm, The Shield, Game of Thrones, Rick and Morty, Nightcrawler, Driver, American Psycho, Oz, Orange is the New Black, all the Rambo movies, Falling Down, American History X, Unforgiven, Fight Club, Walking Dead, Trainspotting, Pulp Fiction, Wolf of Wall Street, Suicide Squad, American Beauty, Wall Street, Terminator 2, The Warriors, American Me, Blade Runner, Escape from New York, Dark Knight, The Joker, Natural Born Killers, The Boys, Better Call Saul, Ozark, Dexter, House of Cards, The Wire, Peaky Blinders, Weeds, Son of Anarchy, Mad Men, Fast and Furious, Gone in 60 Seconds, Leaving Las Vegas, Barfly, Dead Presidents, John Wick, Despicable Me, Ocean's 11, Menace to Society. And you wonder why Donald Trump and Joe Biden are the candidates.
Should we just end it there, honestly? That is so true.
But comment down below, please. I want to know what you think. I mean, I'm not absolving myself of this. I love a lot of that stuff. I love watching it. We have a fascination with it, but that's what we have become.
Well, yeah, let's look at some of the ones you mentioned. Curb Your Enthusiasm, you know, I mean, I love that show, but it's glorifying the sarcastic, you know, glib kind of
That's a milder version of it, but yes.
Yeah, you know, Orange is the New Black. Prison stuff, Shameless. It's around that guy, William Macy, right? I watched a show so long ago who's like a delinquent father. But you know what? Here's the thing. I'm of two sides about this because I think we need to show that this stuff happens, you know? But I think there's a line between showing that this happens, reflecting real life. Obviously, not everything can be like a magical mystery tour of a utopia. But I think there's also a line between doing that and glorifying it. So what do you think? Should Netflix have not done the Griselda show, or should they have done it differently? You watched the whole season. I only watched episode 1.
I enjoyed it. I know. I'm guilty. Guilty
so all
as
of
charged.
us hate anti-hero culture, but we just nevertheless
it
continue.
was just a step back and go, whoa, what? This is really what we do enjoy. That's what people like watching.
Oh, I'm not wagging the finger.
Market.
I do it too.
Who am I to control that?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I don't think Sofia Vergara is a bad person. She made the film or the series, and it makes money, and I'm sure it's very popular on Netflix, and I enjoyed it.
Totally.
Guilty as charged. we're just shining a light on it.
Yes, I think that's the point. I think we need to put it in its proper place and understand that, okay, maybe we're seeing this and we're learning, but we shouldn't try to be like those characters. And I'll end on this note. I think something that I've noticed in our culture, and especially among people my age, is it is cool to do the wrong thing. It's cool to cheat on tests. You're not seen as a fraud. You're seen as like you game the system. I honestly saw this in college. It wasn't rampant, but I was on the honor council. I adjudicated honor code violations, and I saw that people like thought you played the game the best way if you could cheat on tests and do it well. It's not something that has any kind of stigma to it. People think it's, cool to be depressed. I mean, honestly, I know it sounds weird, but I will see these girls in their TikTok bios, their Instagram bios, and they'll be like mentally ill, unhinged girl or ADHD. It's like you're wearing it as a badge of honor.
No,
so
to bring it all full circle, we reflect Hollywood. Hollywood reflects society, and this stuff is worth paying attention to because it seems to be a spiral, and you end up with someone in a Lakewood church shooting people.
Boy, that is coming full circle, isn't it? Let's end it there. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, we're so sorry that the live stream was in and out. We're fixing it. Second show into live. We're getting some things straightened out, but I really appreciate your being here. As always, you can email me at julie@julie-hartman.com, and I'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern for another live stream. Bye.